Hey, everybody. Welcome once again to the Summit, Achieve Your Dream. I hope that you've been having a good time listening to some amazing speakers. Well, I got another one. His name is Dan Janal. He's an amazing guy. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yeah, Janelle rhymes with canal. It's a lot easier
Janal. I got it. Okay. Now you be quiet while I talk about you. Okay.
I thought we were doing branding here and saying my name over and over and over again.
You can blush, but just let me read. Okay, this is Dan. Everybody ready? Okay. Dan helps heart-centered professionals write books they can be proud of. No matter where you are in the book writing process, Dan can help. Dan has written more than a dozen books. And as an award-winning newspaper reporter, he's interviewed President Gerald Ford and First Lady Barbara Bush. So before I introduce Dan the man, I want to ask you a question, sir, that I ask of everybody. Since the theme is Achieve Your Dream, I want to know, Dan Janal, what were you born to do? Take it away.
Well, thank you very much. Great introduction. And I'm glad to be on your show. This is a lot of fun. When I was like second, third, fourth grade, I don't remember what, I said I want to be a writer. And I don't know why, but it just came to me. I want to be a writer. I wrote a short story about astronauts. This was back in the 1960s when astronauts were cool. I guess spies were cool too. And I don't know what happened to that short story, but I've always been a writer. I remember in high school, I wrote plays that made fun of our teachers and other people in the class. They were very popular. I wrote a little journal, one of those books with the marble covers, the black and white marbled covers. And
yes.
I had what would be called tweets today. They're like little one-liners about teachers, about observations. I invented tweeting 50 years ago, but who knew? Just one little one-liner. So I guess I was born to do this. So I said to myself, well, I can go to school and become an English major, but English majors, all they can do really is dissect and analyze Herman Melville and James Joyce and Charles Dickens, and that's kind of boring. I want to write plays and books and things, and maybe I'll be a journalist. So I went to journalism school, went to Northwestern, became a journalist, and I was a newspaper reporter down in Florida, and covered city council meetings and school board meetings. I got to tell you, god awful boring. City council meetings, they're talking about how to pick up garbage and contract rates with garbage collecting companies. And it's like, oh man, boring. Not the drama that I was expecting. So I switched into high-tech PR at the beginning of the computer era. Did PR for companies like K-Pro and Commodore when they were synonymous with the words computer. Then I did the PR for AOL at the dawn of the internet era. And I wrote one of the first books about marketing on the internet back in 1993. And that led to speaking engagements literally around the world, from Beijing to Budapest, all across Canada, the United States, Mexico. I taught the first internet marketing class at Berkeley and internet branding at Stanford. It opened a lot of doors for me. So writing books really opened up the entire world for me. And writing books can open up the world for you as well. So that's my story.
Me too. Well, okay. Well, now I have to ask, because this is my heart. What did you do to get there? What all did you do? You've answered a lot of that. You want to add anything to it?
Oh yeah, definitely. You see, it's a long circuitous route. You think the path to success is a straight arrow up. Nah, it isn't. I'm sure I'm not the first person to say that. It's a zigzag. Remember, I want to write plays, and then I want to write books. And it turns out I'm writing marketing books. And now I'm helping other people write their books, whether it be self-help books or memoirs or business books and leadership books. But here's how I got the idea to write a nonfiction book, because I was doing high-tech PRs, I told you, and I was pretty darn good at it. And I had a lot of great recommendations and great testimonials. And I'd speak at conferences and I'd get clients. But here's what would happen at a conference. I'd go to the Software Publishers Conference and I'd lead a panel or I'd do a speech or something. And people would come up to me afterwards and they'd say, hey, Dan, that was a really good speech. I say, thanks. They'd say, we want you to do our PR. I say, well, great. When do we get started? And they would say, well, why don't you send us a proposal first?
Ooh.
I said, ooh, okay, great. So I was young and naive, and I went back to my office and I'd spend 20, 30 hours doing research and thinking of ideas and typing everything and correcting typos and, sweating blood to get this all done. And I'd send it out to them, not realizing that they'd asked every other PR person at that conference for a proposal too, because proposals are free.
Yeah.
Not the time to make it and to write it, but for them, it doesn't cost them anything. We write our proposals for free. And then you wait to hear back, and crickets. They get all these proposals from all these people, and they probably say to themselves, this isn't rocket science. We can get our secretary to do it. We can get our an intern to do this, not realizing how hard it really is. Because everyone on this call is probably saying, yeah, we've been there. We've been writing proposals. People think it's brain dead simple. And then they try to do the thing themselves. And before you know it, if they're like a plumber and they turn the knob and like next thing you know, the water main breaks, it's not as easy as it looks. So I said, how do I stand out from everyone else? Because frankly, all my competitors were smart too. We all went to good schools. We all had good clients. We all had good recommendations. We were all young and, full of energy and excitement and enthusiasm. But we were all the same when it comes right down to it. So I said, how do I stand out? And I thought, well, no one's written a book about how to publicize high-tech products. So why don't I write a book about that? Mm-hmm. So I was taking the Dale Carnegie course back then, and I saw the cover of his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. So I created a cover that looked exactly like How to Win Friends and Influence People, called How to Publicize High-Tech Products and Services. And instead of Dale Carnegie's picture in the middle, there was my picture in the middle.
Yay!
And I went to the conference and I did my speech and I did my seminar, and people came up to me afterwards and they said, hey, Dan, we'd like you to do our PR. And I said, great. When do you want a proposal? And they said, no, you wrote the book. When can you get started?
Oh, boy.
That's when the light bulb went off. That's when I realized that a book was the key to making me stand out from everyone else. So folks who are listening to this call, if you're selling insurance, if you're selling real estate, if you're a hairdresser, whatever you're doing, chances are your competitors have not written a book. And whether you're in the President's Club or the Millionaires Club or the 5-Star Club, and so are a dozen of your competitors in your same city, now you can stand out when you write a book. A book is the way to open your way to the world. And as I told you before, I've spoken literally around the world because of the book. The book opened doors. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, it more than answers the question. I mean, it was ding, 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 because the next question that I'd love to ask is, how does your business fit into your dream? And that's what you've been telling us here, that your dream was to become the writer and all of that. And all of a sudden it's ding, ding, ding. We don't need a proposal anymore. Wow. Better than a calling card, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned, because that great question. So it's a great follow-up question, because you don't know the impact you have, whether it be a speech or a podcast or a seminar like this, or even a book. I got an email a couple of years ago from a gentleman in India, and he went something like this: I bought your book back in 1994. It cost me a month's salary. Think about it. America, a book is a book, $15, $20, no problem. In India, that's a month's salary, different economies of scale. So he said, I bought your book. It cost me a month's salary. But because of the ideas in your book, I was able to start my online business. And because of the success of that business, my wife didn't have to work anymore. And I could send my 2 kids to college and pay for it so they don't have any debt. And now, we're living a very nice life because I read your book.
So, your halo is pretty shiny right
Yeah, you don't know the influence you could possibly have. So for me to think that writing a book would be self-actualizing for me and make me fulfill my wishes and my dreams about, being creative and being imaginative and using my literary skills, it's really helping other people around the world live out their dreams too, and be self-sufficient and have, happier, healthier lives for their families too.
Wow. What a great story. My goodness.
You.
Well, we've got plenty of time to talk some more. I want to hear, I know that our viewers are going to want something from you. They're going to want something free. They want something great. And I know you have it. because you're a writer. So what do you have for our folks that you're going to give them that will help them achieve their dream?
Great. I have a really fun, easy to read, meaning short, downloadable file for you to read. It's called 3 Keys to Writing Your Book Fast. And these are basically the big hurdles that people tell me when they sit down to write their book. So this is not my big book on write your book in a flash that teaches you step by step how to write your book. This is the mental image book that says, what am I smart enough to write a book? Do I have content that is going to interest people? Because I've spoken to hundreds of people, and especially with seminars and whatever, people ask questions. It always comes down to the same 3 questions. Some people just don't feel they have the confidence to write the book. And I'm telling you, you have the ability to write the book right now. The work you've done, the life you've lived, there are lessons there that you can share with people so they don't go through the same pain and experience that you did, so that you can help them avoid those pitfalls that are common to many, many people. And some people say, well, it takes a lot of time to write a book, a lot of content to write a book. Well, if you've done seminars like this, if you've done TED Talks and webinars and podcasts, and if you've written blogs and articles, if you've been interviewed, well, you have a lot of content already. You can use that content. You don't have to start from square one. You might already be halfway done or even more than halfway done. You just might need to talk to an editor to help you get across that finish line, to format your ideas, reshape your ideas, get them into a format that people can really enjoy better, because you can't see the forest for the trees. So those kinds of common objections that are really mindset questions that people use that are defeating themselves. I want to get you over that hump so you actually write your book. So download that freebie. I'm sure you're going to put the link somewhere. 3 Keys to Writing Your Book Fast.
Now, once they've seen that, once they've read that, and they're on fire, what do they do then? What's their next step?
Well, they can start writing. They can read my book. They can hire me. They can hire another editor. They can talk to me. And if I'm not the right person, I'm certainly happy to refer them to some of my colleagues who might be a better fit, because there are certain things that I just don't resound with me. When you hire an editor, you want to make sure that they fit like a good pair of shoes, because you try a pair of shoes in the shoe store, if they don't fit, it's not going to fit any better 3 weeks later. It'll just be a lot of pain. So I don't do women's memoirs, for example, but I know people who do. I just don't resound with that. You want to find an editor who, they're not going to know your subject as well as you do, because you're the expert, but they should have some interest in that topic. So if you're doing a book on leadership, the editor should have some familiarity with the topic. Maybe they've edited some books in that topic. They may not know your particular angle, but they have to be interested in that topic. So you want to have a relationship with someone. That's the way I look at it. You have a relationship, not just a transaction. You don't want to hire someone just saying like, okay, I need a job. I'll take anything that comes over the transom, no matter how ill-suited I am for it or how boring. That's not me. I want to get excited by my clients. Like I'm wrapping up 2 projects now. One is called the Big Man Bible. And it's a body image book for guys who are like really large. And apparently, I think of a big, large guy like a linebacker or a fullback is like, man, they got it made. They'll have girls hanging off their arms because they're big and strong. Well, the reality is that it could be true for some people, but for my client, he was always being looked at as the big dumb moose because he was big. I feel like, wow, I never knew that. And girls did want to go out with him because he was like really, really super large. I didn't know. Anyway, we had a lot of fun writing that book. It's a great self-help book. There are a lot of body image books for women. I don't know if there are any body image books for men. So we had a lot of fun writing that book as a self-help book. I helped them organize these ideas. Another book that I just finished, again, I know nothing about big men's body image issues, but I was interested in the topic because everyone is an outsider. We've all, unless you're like, the pretty girl in the in crowd clique, we're all outsiders trying to fit in. It's no different if you're big and tall or small or whatever. So I could identify with it from that level. So it was interesting.
Mhm.
Another book that I just finished was with a chiropractor who has this device. It's like an EKG for the brain. It's, it reads your brain. It tells you what's blocked and what's firing, what's not firing. And you can find out if you're bipolar or if you have
My
anxiety
goodness.
issues, or like, that's friggin' cool. So I was able to help him, and that was a lot of fun writing that book too. And I just signed a new client. He's a retired Army general, and he was actually in charge of guarding Saddam Hussein. So like, how cool is that? So here's some good stories to tell. So we're writing a leadership book for high-tech executives. So I like getting involved in my clients. I like doing projects that are fun for me, that I want to get involved in. And that's what you want to look for. An editor who has like the enthusiasm for your project, maybe the same amount of enthusiasm that you do, or maybe even more enthusiasm, because the Big Man Bible, I saw what that book could be more than the author did. And I think he would agree to that, because he wrote a great testimonial for me, because I could see the possibilities there. Because as a writer or an editor, we only know our own little world, but we work with a coach and they work with so many other clients. They see so many other possibilities, and they can draw from those other verticals. And it's like you're a musician. So if you play the piano and then you play the guitar, one thing helps another, muscle memory and whatever. You get stronger with certain fingers here, or you pick up some ideas and some codes, and it translates over from instrument to instrument. Same with writing. So that's what I really enjoy, seeing an idea and making it better.
That is so cool, because I know that you and I are both members of Joint Venture Insider Circle,
Mhm.
and there are a few people who work with people with their books, and I can't thank you enough for the advice about resonating. Find out, go to the people and find the one that you resonate with, and that makes a whole lot of sense. There are some people that I find it difficult to coach. They need to be serious about discovering what they're born to do, and when they're not, it's like, go find somebody else. Somebody will just listen to you sob. No, that doesn't work. But okay, so somebody, they get all excited about this interview. They get all excited about what they've read in your giveaway, and they call you up. What are you going to tell them? Because that word fast in there, that precludes that you're not going to allow people to get writer's block. You're going to move them on through. And you have a strong personality. So what do you do when somebody calls you up or emails you and they're excited and they want to know, can you help me? They want you to be that authority figure in their life. So how do you go about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll tell you a funny story. I hope we have time for this.
We do.
When I first started my business, I wanted to be like the nicest guy in the world and say, "Oh, we can take as much time as you need. Real life happens. So if your husband gets sick, or if you're going on vacation, or if your grandchildren are coming, we'll just put things off for a week or two and come right back to it." Little did I realize that when I was being a nice guy, I was actually letting them off the hook.
Yes.
Then they would have excuses and the book would never get done. So as a result, I realized I had to be, I won't say a tough coach, but I had to put boundaries. So I think anyone, and I do mean anyone, can write a book in 4 months or less. So a book today is about 20 to 25,000 words. We're not talking about a thick book, because frankly, people don't want to read thick books. They want to read thin books. They want to read a book that solves their problems.
Yes.
So I tell people, what are the 8 problems that you enjoy solving that your clients have? Because the only reason people read a book is to solve their problems. And the only problems you want to solve are the ones that you like to solve. Like, I got burned out of solving certain problems. I don't want to see that problem anymore. I'm just tired of it. And there's some problems that anyone can solve, and they're just not worth a lot of money. So why sell something that you're not gonna make a lot of money on? So you have those 8 problems. Those are 8 chapters. Your first chapter is the introduction chapter that tells people what the big picture is and tells your personal story, your signature story, so people get to know, like, and trust you. Like I told you about my proposal story. That's my signature story. It says, when I wrote a book, it changed the world. For you, it might be, when I got a coach, it changed the world. So that's your signature story. What changed you is what you're selling. That's a pretty high level tip there. You might want to write that down. Okay. So not many people know that, frankly. Okay. So then the last chapter, the 10th chapter, is the call to action. Because you can't learn how to play the guitar by reading a book. You can learn about theory, you can learn about chords, you can read some music, but you need a coach, you need a music teacher to say, you're going too fast, you're going too slow, use this finger instead of that finger, or you thought you were using this finger, but you really weren't. You were using the other finger. And hold the guitar this way, not that way, that little angle. It makes all the difference. So you need a coach because you can't figure it out yourself just by reading a book. That's where the coaching and the consulting come in, and that's where the real money is from writing a book. But we'll get to that later. So we have 10 chapters in a book. People want to read short books. We're talking about 20,000 words, 25,000 words. So it's 2,000 words per chapter. That's why I like the number 10. 25,000 words, divide by 10, 2,500 words. That's like a long blog post. So if you have those 10 chapters, you have an outline. Now you have no excuse for writer's block because every day you can sit down and say, okay, I think I'm going to write chapter 3. Chapter 3 is about attitude. What do I want people to know about attitude? Well, there's got to be a story about attitude. There's got to be a case study about attitude. There's got to be some morals and lessons. Maybe you have some statistics. So you have all those things put down in a deep outline for your book. Now you don't have writer's block. So someday you go and you sit down and you say, okay, I'm going to write my book, but I don't have a lot of energy today. Okay, I'm going to get some statistics. That takes no energy whatsoever. I'll go to Google, I'll type, what are statistics on whatever, and you find those, you put them in the book, and you're done. You've done your 15 minutes. So I think if you write 15 minutes a day, you'll write 1,000 words a week. In 20 weeks, you'll have 20,000 words. Write a little bit faster because once you get started, you write more. It's like doing a sit-up. The first one's a pain in the butt. Second one's a little bit easier. Third one, you start building momentum. Then you do 4, 5, 6, 7, until like the lactic acid builds up. You say, that sucks, and you stop. Same with writing. It takes like, oh man, I got to write, and then you sit down and you say, oh, I got this great idea. I got this other great idea. Then the 15 minutes go by, and you're 20 minutes, you're 30 minutes, you're writing a couple thousand words, and you're on your way. So I think anyone can do that. And when I work with my clients in this 4-month process, everyone writes their book in 3 or 4 months. It's great.
Okay, now you mentioned lesson or chapter 1, 3, and 10. What are the other ones?
Oh, okay. Chapters 2 through 9 are the problems.
Oh.
So chapter 1 is the introduction. Chapter 10 is the call to action. Every other chapter from 2 to 9 are the 8 problems. Thanks for pointing that out.
Wow, 8 problems. My goodness. Well, okay. So you got a roadmap. You got a blueprint for people, and you got lots and lots of experience. My goodness. Okay. Well, I think that as people watch this interview, they're going to be folks who want to come to Dan the man, and figure out what to do. Okay. Let me ask this. You've covered some of this, but I just want to hear it again. Someone comes to you and they say, I don't know if I have really a book in me. I don't know if I don't know that I have any subjects. I've got these 4 subjects that I could possibly write about, and they're very, very tentative, and they're skeptical of themselves. They don't have any self-esteem really when it comes to what they can do. I come to you, I'm kind of mousy, but I know well, Dan, I really want to write a book, and I just don't know how to go about it. What's your pep talk?
Okay, great question. There are usually 2 answers to that. One is, gee, who am I to write this book? After all, Professor Smith at Harvard is the world's leading expert on this, and who am I compared to Professor Smith? Well, the answer is Professor Smith isn't writing a book, and you know more than he does because you know your certain niche, whether it be how to market for small businesses in Arizona, or how to solve problems with children who have a certain condition. I mean, everything can be broken down into certain specialties and whatever. And Professor Smith doesn't know all that. Plus, he's teaching at Harvard. He doesn't need this, So there's that. So don't worry about Professor Smith. The second problem that people have with this question is they're not focused on what they want the book to do for them. They don't know why they're writing a book. And that's really the first question I ask people when I interview them. It's like, why are you writing this book? What will the book do for you? Not for the reader, but for you.
That's
So
good.
if someone comes to me and says, well, I want to launch a speaking business to help people so they can overcome their whatever problem it happens to be, I'll say, great. So you want a book to be a lead generator that positions you as an authority so you can get more coaching and consulting so you can help people and build a coaching and consulting and speaking business. That's perfect. Now you know why you're writing the book. So that gets over your introductory question, like mealy mouse, whatever. Well, if you're firmly committed to wanting to help people and be a coach, then you need a book. If you want to be a speaker, you can't even get hired on a stage unless you have a book, because that's the minimum entry requirement, because every other speaker has a book. So that's the way to get through it. And I hope that answers your question. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. It because taking this from scratch, some of our listeners, our viewers, the audience here, they're thinking possibly for the first time, or maybe they thought about it 4 years ago, or 10 years ago, or somebody in their family said, Dad, before you go on, you know a lot of stuff and you need to get it into a book. That's kind of what happened to me with all of the hundreds of people over 35 years that I have counseled and coached. And it was just, yeah, you can do one-to-one, but you need all of this in a book. And that's when I started to think about it and then actually did it. I didn't have you to help me. I wish I had. Doggone, it would have been a lot faster and a lot easier.
It would have been.
Yeah,
you can do it yourself. It'll take a lot longer.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it wasn't
as good as you think. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think the why is the big question. If you have a big enough why, you're going to get through all the dips and the ups and downs and the valleys of writing a book. It's like playing the guitar. You learn a few chords, your fingers hurt, and you say, well, I'm going to stop or whatever. And you work your way through it and your fingers get stronger and the skin gets stronger. Then you reach a plateau and you say, I'm not getting any better. This sucks. I can play Go Tell Aunt Rhody, the old gray goose is dead, but I can't play, Eric Clapton, and I can't play Jimi Hendrix. This is horrible. And then because the muscle memory kicks in and because you have a coach and you have a teacher who teaches you what to do things, suddenly you're playing Blackbird and it sounds really, really good.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you the man, Dan's the man, and people want to know everything that you can do. You haven't touched on, do you do ghostwriting?
I've written a book called Write Your Book in a Flash. It's available on Amazon. That's probably a great way to get started because that'll teach you everything you need to know about writing a nonfiction book from start to finish, chapter to chapter, how to outline, how to do research, everything you need to know is in that book. I can help you as a book coach or developmental editor. I combine both of those together because frankly, I don't know where one ends and the other one begins. The book coach is the person like a guitar teacher. They show you what's right, what's wrong. They work on your mechanics. They help you with the millions of questions that you will have about publishing and writing in general and get you through the depression and the high points and the low points and balance everything out for you. As a developmental editor, that's not a copy editor. It's not a proofreader. That comes much later. The developmental editor is about organization and the big idea. It's about making sure that you have your goal in mind, that you're focused, that your chapters make sense, your stories make sense. People tell stories and maybe in the wrong chapter. I've seen that. People write stories and they say this proves this point. I say it doesn't prove that point. It proves another point, or it's just too long, or you need more dialogue. That's what a good book coach and good developmental editor does. I also am a ghost writer. That's a lot more expensive, frankly, because it takes a lot more work. And the price for that is really based on the topic and how long the book needs to be and the time period needs to be done. And frankly, whether I'm a good fit for it or not. And again, if I'm not a good fit, I'm happy to refer you to other people who might be a better fit. And there are only so many books I can do a year because they do take a lot of time.
Sure. Now, okay, so somebody reads your stuff, they study your stuff, they get as far as they can on their own with your influence from your writings. when should they get in touch with you? When should they talk to you about getting the process really rolling and not hitting all the roadblocks? Even though you and I both know this, even though you write it, and even though you tell them what you're going to tell them, you tell them and then you tell them what you told them, and you do it 10 different ways, they're still not necessarily going to get it. And they need you as a coach to make it happen. I equate this with an appendectomy. You don't go to YouTube and find a video on how to do your own appendectomy. No, you hire somebody who does lots of appendectomies. And it's just that I know that people will, I know they'll read your stuff. I'm going to, because I got another book in me, at least 2, and I'm going to read your stuff. But it's getting that ball rolling. Now, what do you suggest? Because most people don't read more than 18 pages in a book. And if they really, really want it going, they may need not that nudge, but the kick in the pants from Dan the Man.
Well, that's when I can work with them. And I like working with clients at the very beginning stages when they have an idea for the book and are committed to writing the book. And I work as their book coach and developmental editor to make that happen. Some of my clients actually come to me after they've written a first draft and they say, can you review this? And is it any good? And I can do a review of that as well. So that's another way I can work with people who've already written a first draft. In fact, one gentleman found me on LinkedIn. He runs a multi-million-dollar HVAC company that's heating, ventilating, air conditioning. And he wrote a book for other HVAC company owners on how to build their businesses, because apparently those guys are really good on the technology, because you really got to be a scientist to do air conditioning and refrigeration. There's a lot of technical stuff there. These guys are brilliant. They could probably send a rocket to the moon if they wanted to. But when it comes to billing people and charging and hiring and firing and motivating people, they're not so great. So he wrote a book that would talk about the business side of the business. And his copy editor said, you really need a developmental editor. So he found me on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. And I read the book and I said, well, you told this Henry Ford story 3 times and in 3 different chapters. And this story that you wrote here is about loyalty, but it's in the customer service chapter. So you might want to move it here. And your mechanics aren't the greatest in terms of writing, your writing style. So that's why your copy editor is going to clean that up. And also you have some ideas here, but why not turn them into coaching questions so people can make them their own? So in other words, I gave him a whole bunch of ideas that made the book better. Now he could have gone off and done it on his own, but he decided to hire me as well and coach him through the process. So he made all those changes and corrections, and then I would review them and make sure that he actually did what I intended for him to do. And it was a very good book and he's done very well with it. So now he has a coaching business teaching other HVAC owners how to run their businesses properly. So he had a good reason for writing the book, and it turned into, money for him, and also gratification because he's helping other people like himself build better businesses and build better lives.
Well, okay. Now I'll tell you, I know from previous conversations with you that you are heart-centered, as am I. And I think the thing that excites me the most, yes, you are extremely good. Yes, you are seasoned. You've got all the expertise. You've got all of that. But all of this today, I believe, is capable of instilling hope in a lot of people that maybe listening to Dan, maybe I could write a book. Wow, wouldn't that be something? They go tell their wife or their husband or their kids or their mother or their father, and they get excited and they start reading your stuff. They give you a phone call. You're not the type of guy who gets them pumped up. What you do is your stuff is practicality infused with hope, and I like that a lot. I like what you do. You can borrow that if you want to. Just give me.
Yeah, I've never heard it put that way. I'm going to write that down. Practicality infused with hope. I love that.
Yeah. I'm full of them. I'll be here all the time. Yeah. So I got one more question for you, and this is on the heart side. I like to ask this, and that is when it comes to living your best life, what advice do you have for our viewers, for our audience?
Oh, cool. I love that question. I heard this said many years ago. I don't remember who said it, but basically, um, it's your game. Use your own rules. In other words, don't compare yourself to others. Don't use the green-eyed monster. I hate Facebook for that very reason, because you see someone leading the perfect life, the Kodak moments, the kids in the Boy Scout is, always an Eagle Scout, and the daughter is always a cheerleader, and they're going on vacation to Naples. And I mean, you just feel like that's just horrible. In fact, I had a friend from high school, and he had a very tragic life. His wife had MS, and he was working like in a bank with a 9-to-5 dead-end job. And he'd come home from work, and you have to take care of his wife, and the healthcare worker didn't show up half the time. So he found his release on Facebook, and he would like connect with all of his old high school friends like me. But he had such a sad life. And I hate to say it. In fact, he died about 2 years ago, right around this time, which is really tragic. But I would hate to say things like, "Oh, I just got a new client. Oh, I'm writing a book with the General. Oh, I just when I went on the skiing." But I feel like horrible, bragging when knowing that there are people out in the world who are like just scraping by and doing the best they can. And that just sucks. Anyway, getting back to your question. When you compare yourself to others, it's a no-win game. So if someone else is doing 16 things to market their services on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube, and doing this funnel and that funnel and this promo and that promo, you can drive yourself crazy trying to compete with them. So I said, do I really want to do that? It's like, no, I'm leading a good life. I'm doing certain things I like to do. And if I compare myself to others, then I'm just going to feel horrible. So I'm just going to compare to what I want to do. And I'm not talking about breaking laws or doing anything stupid or whatever, far from it. The golden rule applies above and beyond for everything. But it's your game. You can decide what your goals are. If you want to be a coach, be a coach. If you want to be a consultant, be a consultant. If you want to join the ICF, join the ICF. If you think the ICF has stupid rules that don't apply to the way you want to coach, then coach the way you want to coach. Who says who made them the supreme rulers? So run your own race. I think that's way better. Run your own race.
Mm-hmm. It appears to me, in listening to you, that just about anybody could come to you. Let's say that there's a veterinarian, and he's about to retire, and he has some special advice on how to handle particular breeds, on how to do this, and the personalities of, and he's just thinking, well, I'm past that now. But somebody who just has even an extreme specialty, like there's one woman who's selling recipes on baby food, and she's in a 6-figure income now doing that online, things like that. So people, when people come to you, I'm suggesting to you out there, viewers, audience, that you really consider, what do you have? What do people come to you for? What advice do they ask you about? And when that happens, that is something that obviously they've come to you for a reason. You know more, you have more experience, you have more knowledge. That's when you swing over to Dan. I just love to say Dan the man. You swing over to Dan and you get on a phone call and ask him, what do you think about this? Well, I want to write a book on Chihuahuas. What do you think about that? And you'll be able to tell them, yeah. So what have you got so far? I mean, whatever your coaching style is, you've let us all know that you've got a lot to offer. And I really, really, really appreciate that. And I will be picking your brain some more in the future. Just wanted to warn you about that. So, well, we have come to the end of this summit interview, and I'm thrilled with the results. You've been very candid and very open, and I appreciate that a lot. So everybody, don't forget that you can get this interview and other interviews by upgrading to VIP status, and it's cheap and it's wonderful. And you can go back to listen to Dan anytime you want to. All of our other speakers. So until our next interview, sayonara.